Good morning. Welcome to the Share Series Monday Management Update. I'm Jeff Robertson, Managing Director at Water Tower Research. I'm pleased to introduce today Ryan Ezell, who's Chief Operating Officer from Flotek Industries. Flotek is a technology-driven specialty green chemistry and data company. The company's chemistry solutions primarily serve customers in the oil and gas exploration and production sector. The company also has a data analytics division which supplies precision measurement devices which are applicable to customers across the entire energy value chain. Our discussion today could include forward-looking statements. I would refer viewers to Flotek's disclosures regarding such statements, which can be found in the company's most recent corporate presentation under the Investment Relations tab of Flotek's website. So with that bit of housekeeping out of the way, I'd like to get started. Ryan, it's a pleasure to be joined today. Why don't you just start us off, if you can describe Flotek's business and the company's competitive position in the market.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, and good morning to everyone. I'll try to keep this relatively short and sweet because, in reality, I think Flotek has a really simple 2023 investment story consisting of a few what I consider to be major points. One is we've evolved into a full cycle business model that's proved to be successful for us in the recent quarters. We're in the midst of a rapid growth phase that's transitioning to positive cash flow in a hurry. We're looking at a very strong balance sheet. We have very little debt, and this whole business model operates around us being capital light and not spending a lot of money in the PPE side of the business to continue to grow our revenue and get to cash flow positive. When I look at it in detail, we're a rapidly growing oilfield chemistry and data analytics company that's based in Houston, Texas. We just reported our Q3 earnings last week, and we have 55% sequential revenue growth in the quarter. To put it into perspective, this is more revenue in a quarter than we're reporting all of 2021. We're not stopping there as we expect to grow further in Q4 and in 2023. When you look at it, the growth stems from two major areas. First, we're now executing a 10-year take-or-pay contract with ProFrac, which is a market-leading oil field service company in the hydraulic fracturing part of the business. And that process is continuing to ramp up successfully and on target. And second, we continue to gain market share, in our transactional chemistry business, which is all the other chemistries we do outside of our larger ProFrac contract. And that's composed of a multitude of customers. And the great part about that business is we've gotten double-digit growth that's outpaced the industry growth for 5 quarters in a row. Overall, we've gained 8.4% of the total market share in Q3, and we expect that to expand in Q4 and going in the future. And what's really exciting too is our new data analytics segment, which is JP3, and it's starting to gain traction. And we had 138% sequential revenue growth in Q3. As a result of the rapid growth, we're now reaping benefits from the larger economies of scale and scope of the business, which is really pushing us and accelerating our move to positive cash flow. In addition to what I mentioned earlier around the strong balance sheet, the only debt that we have is a PPP loan, which we expect that to be forgiven in the coming weeks. And finally, around the capital light business model, we've been able to achieve this significant amount of growth without really spending any money on capital at all, as our manufacturing facilities continue to be underutilized. And so we're able to really capitalize on our ability to expand our market share without really hiring any additional headcount and really making full utilization of currently low cost and low maintenance assets. And, I would say we're really proud of the fact that over the past year, we've created a business model that can weather the cycle in oil and gas and have continuity and certainty around its revenue stream with effective cost control. And when we look at 2023 as a year that we feel like, all the pieces are finally going to come together and provide excellent timing for new equity investors.
Ryan, you mentioned the ProFrac agreement, so let's talk about that a little bit. In February of this year, so February of 2022, Flotek signed essentially a landmark 10-year chemistry supply agreement with ProFrac. For those who may not be familiar, ProFrac is one of the largest providers of hydraulic fracturing services to the U.S. oil and gas exploration and production sector. Ryan, can you talk a little bit about how that agreement came together and some of the basic features of that contract?
Yeah, and it's a great topic to start with. As part of our strategy of being, collaborative partner of choice for green specialty chemistry and data analytics applications, partnering with service companies that work in industry is a key component of what we do. And we set out on a goal to land a type of contract like what we have with ProFrac, one of the key service providers. And it turned out the combination of what Flotek does and ProFrac really brings an awesome vertically integrated solution to the end-use E&P operators for controlling emissions and better green chemistry applications for what we call sustainable and continuity around the responsible oil and gas. And so for us, when we look at the type of scope of the contract, ProFrac has 41 active fleets that's coming into play in 2023, and it'll expand up to 44. Our current contract is for 10 years, and the volume of the contract requires us to be able to have 30 fleets for full chemistry or 70% of the large total fleet, depending on which of those is larger. And so right now, it's a great opportunity for us to move volume of chemistry for economy of scale and scope. When you look at the ramp, right now we're sitting at 21 fleets out of the 30 that's ongoing that we're at Q4. We averaged 16 fleets in Q3, so you're seeing the continuity growth, and we expect to achieve the full what's required minimum of the 30 fleets in H1 of 2023. The great part about it is that there's possible upside. When you look at that 41 to 44 fleets that'll be active in 2023, there's an ability for us to actually, garner more than just 30. And that's the goal, is that to be that unique service quality provider that we do for ProFrac, and for them want to give us more of the chemistry work because of what we do that's differentiated in the business. And so we're really excited about, how this is going to change us and what we do from the economy of scale and scope.
Flotek served, I believe it was 8 crews in the second quarter of 22, 16 in the third quarter. You said you're now up to about 21. Can you talk about the ramp up in servicing the minimum crews, and just what are the challenges that Flotek has to overcome to be able to increase that capacity?
So I think it's not any different than what, a lot of when you stage up ramping in a big operation, right? We have some additional logistics things. It comes into really mobilizing the amount of chemistry. To give you an idea, we've moved 4 times the amount of chemistry through Q3 than what we did in all of 2021 total as a company. So there's been the matter of getting all the logistics ironed out, having ISO tanks and fleets available to handle the chemistry. And so those have carried a few little additional ramp up costs. But when you look at it, it's not for us. We've got plenty of capacity and we've got plenty of capability to move the chemistry. It was just doing that initial push to get them out into the field. And so I think we've done that really well. The great part about it is we've done that, and we've got essentially 0 MPT hours and no safety incidents. And so when you look at the forefront of us wanting to have that service quality component, we've been very happy about the mobilization and where we are, and it's kind of starting to get to steady state. I would think the biggest learning curve for us is, the initial communications. Anytime you get a large new customer, is we have to kind of start building into the forecast about how we get, the volumes of chemistry where we want them, keeping safety stock and level loading that out to where we get the inventory turning as efficiently as possible, and we don't carry in additional cash and what we spend in inventory. And we look at make sure that we get everything at location. We cut down the amount of non-efficient logistics moves or those that don't generate revenue, and just the normal things to ramp up. But I'll tell you, ProFrac's been a great partner. We have great communication across the board with all the people in the different components and the verticals inside their business. And, we literally started out, we moved the first 40 million pounds of chemistry with less than 16 hours notice. And now we're out to about a 48-hour notice. And that's helping us significantly bring costs down in terms of logistics and how we're handling it in the field.
Can you talk about so over the 10-year life of the contract, what's the revenue backlog to Flotek?
Yeah, when we look at it, and some of these things are in our investor deck, you can range depending on the geography of where the fleet is, whether it's in the Northeast, East Texas, or West Texas. We say they average about 500 to 550,000 per fleet. And when you calculate this out to 30 fleets, you're looking at well in excess of 200 million backlog revenue per year on just ProFrac, with a lot of upside.
We talk about fleets, or the number of fleets served, but the actual agreement itself, I believe, is a volume agreement. Is there upside based on what you've seen so far from the demand for the chemistry solutions and maybe what's going on in the industry. Do you think there's upside to the revenue numbers based on what you're seeing so far of customers purchasing?
I do believe, I definitely think there's upside, and we talked about it a little bit on one of our earnings calls in terms of we see it's just kind of dependent on the fleet location. If they run in East Texas, depending on the pressure zones and stuff, we'll see usually an overage of chemistry. The ones in West Texas run a little bit leaner, but still ProFrac in itself and working with us, we did conservative estimates on volume in terms of when we brought this to shareholders on approving the agreement because of its magnitude and being able to reach the contractual minimums. And so even in the nature of how we did on the volume side, I definitely, there's upside from front to back throughout on how we deliver the volumes, particularly when you get up to in more than 24 fleets active.
The ProFrac supply agreement is not exclusive. How much of Flotek's capacity is required to meet your obligations under that agreement?
That is an awesome comment to talk about, because I would say that's what makes this so unique, is that not only is it non-exclusive, in reality, in our conversation with ProFrac, they prefer us having as much work as we can because of the impact of the economy and scale and scope. And so when you look at us running fully up at 30 crews, even at our capacity, we're still not even exceeding more than 52% of the capacity when we run day and night shifts at our manufacturing facility. So not only can we absorb the contract, we've still got a lot more room that we can grow. And as you see, that's the big focus on our transactional business, is to continue to push it and gain as much market share as we can, because we do have capability to do that and not make a lot of capital investment.
I believe in the third quarter, Flotek's transactional business, or business with non-ProFrac customers, was up 44% year on year. Can you talk about what's driving that and what's driving the Flotek's gains in market share?
Yeah, I would say it's total around our execution of our value proposition, and that's being that collaborative partner of choice for chemistry and data solutions. We have a portfolio of differentiated technologies in our real-time infrared monitoring, as well as our sustainable and green chemistry portfolio, that improves the estimated ultimate return and recovery from wellbore on any completion. And you couple that with our safety and service quality delivery aspect, you finally get a true handshake that's not greenwashing. It is a handshake of total cost of ownership with environmental cost of ownership and overall well performance for the same dollars. And I think that is a unique capabilities that Flotek brings to the market that no one else can. And that's what's driving a lot of our market share growth.
For an investor who may not be entirely familiar with the need for chemistry or chemical solutions in oil and gas, let's start a little bit with the basics. Just what is Flotek's green chemistry? What does it do for pressure pumping companies, and also, more importantly, for the operator, the owner of the well?
Yeah, so, and that's a great thing. And I typically try to break this down into two ways to look at it. First is, if I'm talking from an investment side, if I'm looking directly at an end-use operator or someone who controls an AFE or spin to actually drill a well, is that our prescriptive chemistry management looks at the total chemistries that are used, no matter the type, and we custom design every chemistry application for the well. And in doing the custom application, we do a ton of XRD analytics on the cuttings types. We look at the produced oil, we look at the produced water, we look at all the different small molecule components, and we put together the most efficient chemistry package that minimizes the amount of chemicals that are going down hole. This helps on cost-wise and also exposure of the chemistry to the environment. This also reduces the emissions on trucking. It reduces all the manufacturing emissions. So it's a holistic approach of that total cost of ownership when we look at it. When we shift over to what types of chemistry we use, we're highly focused on biodegradable, non-carcinogenic, renewable resource type chemistries, where we're looking at naturally derived solvents like citrus terpenes to dextran derived surfactants, to a multitude of things that we look at that really drive a greener scorecard for the chemistry applications. Because in the end, the oil and gas business is going to be needed to make this transition to other renewable resources and types of energies, but we have to do it responsibly and we have to do it sustainably. And I think that, Flotek, we have over 170 patents and renewable resource type chemistries that we bring to the market. And we do this cost effectively, and most important, we do it to drive better recovery from the well. And I think, when you couple those things together, that's where we see a differentiated capabilities of what Flotek brings to the market. And I think the industry is starting to understand that it's not just a discussion, it's using less chemicals, it's reducing emissions, and it's using the right chemistry when you put it down hole.
Is that right? Is the right chemistry or the green chemistry, is it a competitive advantage for Flotek?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you look at it, we have proprietary technologies, and it also comes into the proprietary testing that we do and our ability to monitor the chemistry in real time with our JP3 technologies. And we take this all the way out to the wellhead, and it helps us with everything from field gas utilization to what's going downhole to what's being produced all the way across the board. And that allows us to have a definite unique position in the market.
There's obviously a tremendous amount of ESG or environmental focus in the oil and gas industry right now. How does Flotek's chemistry help either the pressure pumping companies themselves or the ultimate end user, the oil and gas operator, meet some of their environmental goals?
So I want to talk about two things that impact us here. One is our chemistry and one is our data analytics. When we look at the chemistry side, as I mentioned, we make the choice from anything from scale corrosion, clay control, friction reducers, everything that make these completions operate the most efficient that we can, so we reduce costs and the chemistry's impact in the environment. And so that alone helps on the emissions reductions and the overall carcinogenic or biodegradable natures of these chemistries that we use that gives the best ultimate return and recovery from the reservoir. And then when you look at the combination of our JP3 analyzers, in a lot of places, you'll see the transition to electric hydraulic fracturing fleets, or what they call Tier 4 dual fuel that run off produced field gas or diesel. And almost all the fleets are going this way. And what's really unique is they have a lot of this stranded field gas that they'd either have to burn off, or, what they would do with it is create all kind of emissions issues, when in reality, they can run hydraulic fracturing fleets with it. But the problem has always been is that they can't monitor the quality of the gas. And so oftentimes they don't get the most efficiency. So they'll have to stop burning field gas and burn diesel. When we put the JP3 Verax analyzer, it takes real-time BTU measurements every half a second of the field gas qualities that's coming through. And if you see that of non-quality, it'll instantaneously turn the pump back over to diesel till it clears that gas and then switches it back over to field gas. And in doing so, we've seen diesel consumption go down as much as 70% in the field. And when you see that, you see significant greenhouse gas emission reductions. And we can actually start to help them calculate carbon credit scorecards for what they do on the reduced chemistry, the emissions reductions, and the efficiency of the operating fleet. We bring this to the service companies, or we can take it direct to the operator. We do both. I believe in the third quarter, Flotek announced an agreement to supply 20 of the Verax analyzers to ProFrac. Is that something that can ultimately become a separate revenue stream? Yeah, so when you look at JP3 as a whole, traditionally speaking, a lot of the near infrared monitoring for us has been taking place in the midstream and downstream part. It's phenomenal in refractories. We look at vapor pressure calculations, or you look at transmix applications. And what we really want to do is even move it to another big market, like we've talked about, is the monitoring of field gas and stuff closer to the wellhead, even BTU counts on the produced oil that's coming out of the completed wells. And so for us, it's definite capabilities when you look at what we're going to see with all the applications in ProFrac, because we've got 6 units running with them currently in Q4 already of the 20. And we definitely think in the future it's going to become a great contributor to the revenue streams in JP3, because there's a multitude of opportunities outside of that, even past just hydraulic fracturing. If you look at anything related to compressed power, or they've got to compress gas and look at gas quality, you look at things in power generation and a multitude of other applications where there's thousands of uses for them upstream a bit.
Are you seeing this as a test type of market where you hope to get other adoption from other customers?
Definitely. And, it's something we've got a hard pursuit. We brought in some talented individuals that are working with we got a gentleman named Ron Halsey who's leading up that significant experience in what I call the sensor applications field, particularly in energy, oil and gas. And these are things that we're pushing very hard because, in reality, as a technology driven organization, as we get this handshake between what our chemistry can do and what our ability to monitor these chemistries in real time with our data analytics, it puts us in a unique value proposition area as Flotek, and I think drives a better overall investment strategy for anyone who wants to invest in the organization for an equity holder.
Flotek reported its third quarter last week on November 8th. What do you think were the key takeaways from the quarter that investors ought to focus on?
I kind of step back to, where I started at, right? We've got an extremely, I would say, strong business cycle model that we look at as we not only as it goes through a cycle, but multiple cycles. And as we make this transition to sustainable energy, I would definitely take away and look at the rapid growth in the market share expansion. We've seen an order of magnitude in the amount of market share growth that we've got in less than a year. You're seeing these significant revenue growths and adjusted EBITDA is improving quarter on quarter. And we're going to turn that over and be in positive cash flow here soon because of the impacts of economy scales and as we get ramped up. And most importantly, we're able to do this by, very minimal capital spend. And so this technology driven organization has got a very well defined value proposition. And I think it's a unique opportunity. And I think that the growth, the EBITDA improvement, and where we're going to be focused in the future on responsible oil and gas is a strong position for us.
What is Flotek doing or need to do on the cost side to manage its way toward positive EBITDA in 23?
I think, we're highly focused on continuous improvement. I grew up doing Lean Six Sigma black belt to anything. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And so when I look at it, we're going to continue to leverage economy of scales and efficiency on technology differentiation to reduce costs on overall material costs of goods and manufacturing. We're going to continue to model our logistics and improve efficiencies there. And we're also going to look at, I would say, other areas of differentiation that will allow a margin enhancement on, I would say, synergy created by data and chemistry utilized together on creating value for that end shareholder. But, in my mind, we've had very little headcount growth, and we're going to continue to hold that headcount solid and look at, our SG&A spend as a percentage of revenue is going to continue to come down, and it's going to be disciplined, and we'll continue to look at material and efficiency improvements.
You mentioned earlier the concept of capital light growth. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that, given the ramp in the contract with ProFrac plus transactional chemistry market share gains, how does the capital light growth concept play into what we'd hope to see is better EBITDA margins in 2023?
Yeah, so for us, if we're spending less cash on CapEx and we're depreciating less, and so for that, we want to get the most efficient utilization of the existing assets. I do believe, though, when I look at the EBITDA improvement, if I was going to spend any capital in certain areas, it'll be solely, number one is we'll eventually get to a point to where we do a lot of our logistical movements with third-party ventures or alliances. That way there's an opportunity for us to probably invest in our internal trucking for a certain percentage of the business. I think would make us a little bit more efficient. And then a few other assets that we have in the field around pumps and tanks, things like that may, when you look at it on a lease versus buy option, there's a certain percentage of them through the cycle that it makes sense for us to own, I think. But and holistically, the size of our business, they're not large capital expenditures because we're not going to be building a new manufacturing facility, et cetera. I would say here in the future, there is something that we potentially could get in the overall scale and scope. We will get to the part to where it would make sense for us to maybe look at pure small molecule manufacturing. And those are things that we are looking at depending on, how we look at our product portfolio evolution in the next 24 months. But those were probably where, if I was going to say, we looked at capital expenditure, we look at there, and those would actually drive EBITDA improvements just from, lease versus buy options or manufacturing expansion.
So that could change your margin mix a little bit?
Yes, absolutely.
Is there if you think about the ProFrac contract and the economics, once it's fully operational, Is there a margin, a gross margin type of number that you think about that people ought to have in mind?
We have some internal targets because of the size of contract it is that we actually audit to internally, but we don't really give that much. We don't give that much guidance to the public yet around what those are, as we're still in the ramp up phase. That may be something we look at in the future once we're at steady state as we set those targets. But we have some internal things we audit on, but we haven't really shared those publicly. So I'm gonna kind of keep those as non-disclosed at this moment.
Ryan, you spoke about logistics. Does the prescriptive aspect of Flotek's business working with operators to try to get the right volume of chemistry on location, will that ultimately help the company manage its costs and maybe in margins?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, part of what we look at as we're growing the business and understanding where we want to do the chemistry spend, we've worked really hard at, and I say since I came on board, is moving our supply chain closer to our customer. The less you have to truck it, move it, et cetera, the better off you're going to be from an EBITDA margin standpoint. And for us, we are generating now in basin manufacturing, toll blending, and logistics delivery, we call last mile, that's helping drive margin improvement. And a lot of it had to come to do with getting up to these economies of scale and scope to where we figure out where's the best place for us to centralize some of this in basin delivery. And we've gotten to that point, and we're going to start to see those. And you look at the coming months, you're going to start to see the margin improvement in COGS come through from logistics, economy of scales, and the material purchases, et cetera. And that's something that's key to us breaking into free cash flow.
And just one more question on the data, back to the data analytics, excuse me. Is that something that you're seeing around from an ESG standpoint? Are you seeing a lot of inquiries about using those systems as companies try to manage emissions and just manage their facility operations?
Yeah, you know, I would say, even if you look at, you know, what's been astounding is our revenue growth. If we're going to eventually probably start talking about that in terms of bookings for installations, because we got really focused on what's unique about JP3 is that the technology is so robust on our ability to do things. There's a ton of different applications that people bring to us. We have to keep a very small bandwidth focus on what we want to apply to, because if not, you end up spending all this time of, can it do this, can it not do that? And we don't actually execute on what we know it does well. And so we saw a lot of that on I'd say our initial acquisition and as we integrated into the organization, but we're very narrow focused on what it is. And we're seeing our bookings significantly increase. We're seeing the interest significantly increase, and that's manifesting itself in the revenue growth that we've seen quarter on quarter than what we look at going in 2023. And now, you know, you look at the applications that we've got out as we're starting to put out the press releases and write technical articles on the field case study. So now you've got proof of concept around field gas monitoring. We've got proof of concept around transmix prevention and the volumes there. We've got proof of concept in vapor pressure monitoring. All these things now are really driving a lot of interest, and we're really excited about the future of JP3 and even how it's going to enhance the types of chemistry cells that we do in the future. And because, I mean, you know, what gets measured, you know, gets managed. And I think that's going to be a key point. Even if you look at the new regulations that are coming out around methane management, we're very strong at monitoring that. I mean, I think those are unique things that JP3 brings to the business. And even looking at stuff around water quality, we can do those as well. So just really excited about the opportunities coming forward.
Brian, we've just got a minute or so left. So why don't you, can you summarize for us just in maybe a couple of bullet points what you think the real value proposition is for Flotek?
Yeah, I mean, we keep it very simple. When I talk about operating value proposition for us, is we are the collaborative partner of choice for sustainable chemistry and data analytics solutions for the energy industry. Whether that be in responsible oil and gas, the things that we do in solar coatings, and what we do in the geothermal side of the business as well. And I think we've got a differentiated portfolio of technologies with over 170 patents that's been pumped in over 20,000 wells worldwide, and multiple applications of our data analytics technology that's robust, have been used in the field for over a decade. And for that, I think that for customers and clients that want to improve the overall efficiency, safety, service quality, and estimate ultimate recovery of energy, any energy application. Flotek is that partner of choice for that.
Ryan, I think we're going to have to end it there. I would like to thank everyone who's joined us today. Next up in the Share Series Monday Management will be Superior Group of Companies at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it for your time.